Hello, I am Carlo Bustos, Educational Programs Leader at Proformative, the online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Cloud-Based Finance and Accounting Software Technology Demo, bringing cloud computing to finance and accounting. In this session, the speakers will take you through Intacct's key features and functionality. You'll see how Intacct provides real-time business visibility via easy-to-create dashboards and reports, comprehensive accounting and financial management that speeds your processes through time-saving automation, streamlined quote-to-cash process that bridges sales and finance, and eliminates manual data reentry, as well as an automated procure-to-pay with custom-defined workflows that reduce errors and processing costs. I'd like to thank Intacct for helping us make this event possible and the generous support for which helps us deliver this webinar at no cost, just like everything at Proformative. And now a few housekeeping items before we get started. First, I'd like to welcome you back to Proformative. Just a brief overview on Proformative for those of you who may be new to our community. We are the largest growing online community of finance, treasury, accounting, and related professionals. We are the ad-free, noise-free community where we encourage and expect peer-to-peer collaboration. Check it out at proformative.com. Just some brief event notes. The link to today's presentation and recording of this webinar will be sent out to all attendees within 24 hours of the event, and the presentation is currently already posted on proformative.com/resources if you'd like to download and follow along. We encourage everyone to ask questions during the demonstration today, as this is the best sense to get a good view into the product. And you can utilize the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel to ask questions throughout the session, and we will get to as many as we can during today's webinar. This is just a brief reminder. There are no CPE for this webinar, so we will not be doing polling questions today. And we will also ask if you don't mind taking a brief survey regarding the webinar today right after we finish. It's only about another 60 seconds when we close out. And it just gives us a better sense of how we can continue to strive to improve the ROI we offer during our webinars. Okay, so let's get started. I'd like to introduce today's first speaker. It's Vijay Ramakrishnan. Vijay is Intacct's Director of Product Marketing, where he helps organizations understand how they can tap into the power of the cloud to streamline financial management processes and gain new insights to drive business strategies. Prior to Intacct, Vijay was at Taleo, where he helped HR organizations leverage the cloud to make their talent acquisition and performance management processes more effective. Vijay has over 15 years of experience in the software industry and holds a BA in economics from Stanford University and an MBA from the UC Berkeley. Take it away, Vijay.
Thanks, Carlo. Well, hearing my bio, that's a bio I guess a mom would be proud of. I'm not sure I'd introduce myself that way, but I appreciate the gracious intro, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the Proformative community today. Linda and I are here representing Intacct, and we're really excited to share the details about the Intacct solution. So what I'm here to give you a brief introduction to Intacct and the cloud-based finance and accounting software solution. And the heart of today's presentation is going to be the demonstration that my colleague Linda Pinion will be giving you. And through that demonstration, you're going to get a first-hand view into some of the capabilities that I'm going to speak about very briefly here at the beginning of the session. Great. So as an introduction, Intacct is a world-class financial management solution. And the characteristics of the solution are that it's fairly broad and deep in terms of the financial management and business processes that we've helped our customers automate. So whether you're talking about processes like global consolidation, revenue management, quote-to-cash, procure-to-pay, or even inventory management, project accounting, and expense management, our solution covers all of those areas within financial management and general business process management. Now, many of you probably have solutions in place today that help you automate some or all of those areas. And what I want to talk about briefly is what makes Intacct unique in being able to help our customers automate those processes. So the first thing that put Intacct on our customers' radar was the fact that we were a cloud-based solution, which is very different from the traditional on-premises model for accounting and financial management software, where the customer is responsible for owning and maintaining the hardware that the solution runs on, and the customer is also responsible for installing and upgrading that software itself. So Intacct's cloud-based model is different from that. Like Gmail, like WebEx, like Salesforce, we're an application that's delivered as an internet service. So our customers aren't responsible for maintaining the hardware or maintaining the software. And there's really three primary benefits that our customers have gotten from the fact that we're cloud-based. The first benefit is the ability to access the technology and access the application from anywhere you have an internet connection. So all you need is just a browser or a smartphone to be able to do that. And that's been valuable for our customers because many of them have staff in distributed locations, organizations that are operating with multiple locations. It's also been useful for our customers in enabling the ability to work on the go and really work from wherever they happen to be. The second benefit that they've gotten from the fact that Intacct is a cloud-based application is the economic model that we provide, and a model that provides a much lower total cost of ownership to our customers. Because Intacct, as a solution provider, is maintaining all of the hardware and the software ourselves, we can achieve economies of scale around building and managing out that hardware and software infrastructure. And those economies of scale show up as lower costs for our customers and ultimately a lower total cost of ownership. And the third benefit that our customers have gotten from the fact that we're a cloud-based application is that they're able to tap into new functionality the day we make it available, without having to go through, a time-consuming upgrade process, a process that takes a very long time, consumes a lot of resources with the traditional on-premises model for accounting and financial management applications. Now, the cloud is initially what put us on the radar, as I said, with our customers. So while the cloud put us on the radar and initially got Intacct the attention and focus from customers, what's kept our momentum going and what's kept a tremendous amount of growth for Intacct going are two things. The first thing is the technology, and we're going to spend the entire session today on the technology, and you'll get a really deep look at that. But the other thing that's kept the momentum going is our focus on customer satisfaction. Now, we're a pure financial solution. So what that means is all of our R&D is focused only on financials because our customers are running best-in-class solutions for other areas of their business. And what our customers want us to keep doing is keep innovating in the area of financial management and accounting. The second way our customer focus really is personified and exemplified is the fact that at Intacct we really have a culture that's built on a foundation of customer success. So every Intacct employee, myself, Linda, and all of our colleagues, we have a portion of our compensation tied to customer satisfaction. So the entire organization is really focused on making sure that our customer satisfaction and retention ratings are really high. And because of that, we have been able to create, sustain, and further a lot of momentum through that customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction that's made us the fastest growing cloud financial management provider. So again, a huge part of our momentum and huge part of our success has been our focus on the customer. The second, again, which as I said is the focus of today's session, is our technology. And really want to get now today, this part of the session, to focus a little bit more deeply on that. So before we get to Linda's demonstration, I just want to highlight a few key ways that our customers have gotten value from that technology. As customers bring on our cloud-based financial management solution, there's really 5 key ways in which they're getting value out of that solution. The first key way is the automation that the solution provides. And as I mentioned earlier, that automation covers the broadest spectrum of financial management processes. And through that automation, customers have been able to realize a lot of speed and a lot of efficiencies across key processes. The second way that customers have gained value from the solution is the unparalleled visibility that Intacct has given them and the financial and operational insight that the solution has given them to better run their business. The third way that customers have gotten value is through the fact that we've architected the solution to easily keep pace with changing business requirements. Now, you're here at today's session, and you might be looking at cloud financial management solutions out there today because you have some new requirements around how your business needs to manage those processes. What we realize is many of our customers are experiencing rapid growth. And because of that rapid growth, the requirements you have today may change in the future. So we've really focused on making the solution really adaptable to change. And our customers have realized a tremendous amount of value from that. The fourth way our customers have realized value is from the freedom that our approach has given them to choose the best solutions for each area of their business. We are focused on being best in class for financials, and we provide our customers with fast and easy ways to integrate Intacct with the solutions that they already have. And the final elements of value have been the improved productivity, lower risk, and lower costs that have come from the fact that Intacct is a pure cloud solution. So with that brief introduction to Intacct and brief introduction to the Intacct solution, what I want to do now is hand it back to Carlo for the rest of the session today.
Great. Thank you, Vijay. Appreciate it. And now I'd like to introduce our second speaker of today's webinar, Linda Pinion. Linda is a senior sales engineer at Intacct, where she provides support to the direct and channel sales team by developing and delivering solutions that meet their business requirements. Prior to Intacct, Linda was at Oracle, where she helped develop programs for sales engineers and delivered personalized J.D. Edward presentations. Linda has over 25 years of experience in the software industry and owned a VAR organization for many years in Columbus, Ohio. Linda, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carlo. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, great. So before we get into Intacct, thank you again, Vijay, for giving us the foundation and a little background on why Intacct is the partner of choice here. We're going to go through a little bit of a roadmap here so that you can identify with what we're going to look at in the Intacct solution. We've identified 3 key areas. The first area that we're going to look at is around a business process that we deem to call procure-to-pay. And procure-to-pay is an area where many businesses are wanting to streamline their processes. They're wanting to make sure that they understand who they're purchasing from, how those vendors are performing, and really to control the spend that is happening in that purchasing area. So we're going to start out with that business process. We're going to share with you some approval workflows that are included with Intacct. We're going to look at a purchasing dashboard and look at some reporting and controls that will help you be better, smarter buyers. The second business process that we're going to look at is around order to cash. And this business process, we're going to step outside. We're going to do something a little different here. We're going to show you Intacct, but we're also going to show you an integration with Salesforce. And Salesforce, for those of you who are not familiar with that application, it is another best-in-class application. It's a customer relationship management application, one that we have written a bidirectional integration to. It allows you to marry the sales information with your financial information and have this seamless view across your customers and all of their information. So we want to show you that. We're going to start out in Salesforce. We're going to end up in Intacct and talk about that integration as we go through it. And then the last area that we're going to talk about is reporting. And of course, every company that I work with is most interested in how do I create reports, how easy is it, where can I see them, how easy are they to get to. We're going to look at 3 different areas. We're going to look at the report center. We're also going to talk about something called dimensions, which may be a new concept for you. And we're going to tie this back to the dashboards, which is really a way for you to see all of your reports and your business information at your fingertips. So let me lay a little bit of the logistics out here for you. The first business process that we're going to talk about is procure-to-pay. And one of the things that VJ mentioned was Intacct having the ability to scale and grow with your business. So my storyboard here is going to be around having a company that has multiple locations. And in those outside locations, we have some folks that are able to enter purchase requisitions. So my storyboard is going to be around a guy named Jay. And Jay is an employee, and he's out in one of our satellite locations. And he's been interested in getting a new office desk. And here's how we're going to walk through this process. We're going to go through entering a requisition as an employee. We're going to get that requisition approved, and then we're going to convert it to a purchase order. And as we go through the steps in that process, you're going to see how Intacct is going to help you to automate the process and utilize predefined workflows. So let's go ahead and enter that purchase requisition for that new desk. Jay has been using the same desk for a number of years, and he's really tired of that old crummy desk. So he's been looking in the Staples catalog. And in that catalog, he's found the perfect desk. And just to make sure that the desk that he wants is the desk that gets ordered, he scanned in a picture. And the picture of that desk is going to be attached to his requisition. Now here's the new desk that Jay wants, and he's going to make sure that the right one gets ordered because he's put that picture right here on the requisition. Now once he's created this requisition, it's going to go into a file that is going to send some workflow notices off to his manager. So here's the desk that he wants. It's $300. Everything looks good here, except we probably want to put in some sort of a reference here so that we know that this is, in fact, his requisition. So this is Jay's requisition for his new desk. We're submitting that, and when we submit it, an email is going to go out to the approver. And in Jay's case, all of his requisitions are approved by his manager. Carla Grace happens to be Jay's manager, and she does a lot of purchasing work. So she's got her own purchasing dashboard. Now, I mentioned that we would be talking about dashboards when we talked about reporting, but just to give you a sneak peek, this is the purchasing operations dashboard. I've set this up with all of the different reports and views and graphs that are important to me as a purchasing person. Now, you can create as many dashboards as you choose to, and you can secure these dashboards. You can make them very private and personal, or you can share them with your other colleagues. Every Intacct user can set up their own dashboards, and they can have access to as many dashboards as you grant them access to. Now, on this purchasing dashboard, Carla's got a place where all of her requisitions and approval notifications come to. Here is the requisition that we just entered as J. And Carla wants to look at this. She wants to look at the transaction. She wants to understand exactly what it is that J wants before she approves it. So here is that transaction along with the picture of that desk. So the picture, the supporting document, is going to follow the transaction. And these attachments are throughout Intacct. They're not just here in the purchasing area. Important for Carla is to know who else is in the approval line. So she may not be the only one approving this, and she can look at the approval history here as well. Once she's ready, she's going to come in here and she's going to approve this requisition. And when she approves it, Jay's going to get an email that's going to tell him that his requisition has been approved. Now, should Carla decide to not approve it, Jay would also get a message telling him that his requisition had been declined and why it had been declined. Now, once that requisition has been approved, and this has all been automated through the workflows, the next step in the process is to convert this to a purchase order. Converting it to a purchase order, again, an automated step here because you don't have to rekey any information. Everything is already here, coming directly from the requisition. I'm going to add some information. I'm going to add how we want this shipped so that I can include that on my purchase order, and then I'm going to go ahead and post that. Now, for those of you who may be interested in how does this affect inventory, if this were a stocked item, let's say you're a distributor and this is something that you buy and stock in your warehouse and then ultimately turn around and sell it, when you post this purchase order, it's going to update the inventory. It's going to update the purchasing to say that you have a quantity on order of this item. Once we go to the next step, which is 2 or 3 days later, when Staples sends us the desk, when they deliver the desk to the warehouse, we're going to go through a receiving process. And that receiving process is going to match that purchase order and validate that we ordered one and we received one. And at this point, that all looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and post this receiving transaction. Now, posting this receiving transaction will put that into inventory, if it were an inventory item, and it would take it out of quantity on order. 2 or 3 days go by, and Staples is going to send us an invoice. And again, they're sending us an invoice that we're going to validate that we are being charged $300, which is what our purchase order says. And notice, again, no rekeying of data. So everything moves through the process with no additional data entry. The thing that I do need to do here now is I need to put in an invoice number, and that invoice number is from Staples' invoice that they've just sent me. I've verified that I've been billed $300, so I'm going to go ahead and post that invoice. Now, posting that invoice completes half of the process. The half that we've completed now takes us up through the vendor invoice. And all of those transactions or steps in the process are now documented for me. So, as VJ said, as long as I have access to the Internet and I have the proper security, I could be anywhere and come in and check on the status of these transactions. I have each step, date and time stamped and user stamped. I also have drilled down into each one of these steps in the process. So this truly is my online audit trail. Now, the second half of the process. First of all, we've got through the purchasing side. Now we're going to move to accounts payable. And I'm showing you a little different screen here. This is a process map. It's something that all of our applications have. And we're right here in the process. We don't need to enter an AP invoice because we've already done that as part of our purchasing process. If you didn't have a purchase order, you could certainly enter an AP bill here straight into accounts payable. But we've already entered that invoice, so we're going to select that invoice for payment. Now, one of the things that you'll notice as you travel through the Intacct applications, we are very consistent in all of our reporting and all of our reporting criteria screens. You'll always have a choice to filter information. So I'm going to filter this down to just Staples as my vendor, and I'm going to ask it to show me everything that is out there ready to be paid for Staples. I could filter this on due date or discount date or bill number, but I'm going to ask for everything, and you're going to see quite a list here. Staples is a vendor that I use quite often. So here are all the invoices that are ready to be paid for Staples. Here, in fact, is the invoice that we just entered, and I'm going to go ahead and select that for payment, paying it in full, that full $300. And once I have selected that, I'm then going to come in and print my check. And printing that check is going to allow me to have some choices. First of all, I can personalize my check form, prints on plain paper, but I can add my logo and any personal information on that form. And I also can print one stub or two stubs. So I could print a stub for myself and one for my vendor. So here's my check print, an example of what that looks like. And now I'm going to go ahead and post that check. Now for you accounting folks in the audience, posting that check is going to post all of those financial transactions to the cash disbursements journal. So all of the financial debits and credits are going to be posted once I post that check. And then our last step in the process is to go look at our check register. Again, you'll notice I've got some choices here. I'm going to narrow this down to today's date, and I will tell you that I've already done some work today in accounts payable, so we're probably going to see more than one check. And we do. So here is the check that I just issued. We know that it's still in transit because it hasn't cleared the bank. We can drill back into the invoice or invoices that are included on this check, and we could also void the check from this screen. Now, additionally, what you may want to do is you may want to print some other reports, and there are standard reports in each one of our applications that would allow you to execute those reports on demand. These are reports that Intacct has created for you. So that really finishes up the procure-to-pay process. Just a quick review of what we did and why this is so important to businesses like yourself. We started out by entering a requisition. We entered it as an employee, and our employee only had certain permissions and access rights. So you notice that Jay couldn't do everything that Carla can do here. Jay sent that for approval, and we had an approval step right here. So we got the requisition approved. We converted it to a purchase order, received a shipment, and created a vendor invoice, all without rekeying data. Then we moved over to accounts payable. We picked up that invoice at a select bills to pay step in the process. We didn't need to go through an approval of the payment, and the reason that we didn't is because my workflow is set that unless it's over $5,000, I don't need a second approval. But this, too, is a way to automate that process. So you can set up workflow to have a second approval. We missed this step here and went right to printing checks, and then we came down and we looked at some of the reports that we could execute. So that is how we would automate your procure-to-pay and eliminate some of those bottlenecks in purchasing. Now, the one thing that I want to close this section with is the dashboard. So I'm going to come back to this purchasing dashboard, and I'm going to say, now you have a place where all the information about who you're buying from, how they're performing, are they sending your shipments on time, are they charging you too much, are they not sending you the right quantity. So all this information that can help you be a better, smarter buyer is available in the standard reports, and those reports, of course, can be moved out to any of your dashboards. So that's the first takeaway, is your procure-to-pay business process. Now, the next business process that I want to talk to you about is quote to cash or order to cash. Some folks don't start out with a quote. You can certainly manage all of this in Intacct. So if we come back to Intacct real quickly, if we look at the order entry process map, you can see that you can start out with a quote and move to a sales order and then fulfill that order and then create your sales invoice. We're going to start over in Salesforce. We're going to go back over here and talk a little bit about the integration between Salesforce and Intacct. Now, I use Salesforce to track all of my marketing campaigns, how they're performing, in the hopes that I'm going to get some leads. And when I get those leads, I ultimately want to turn them into accounts. I want them to be my customers, and I want to sell them something. So when we think about the integration between these two best-in-class applications, everything is housed in what we call opportunities. So let me introduce you to my account here. It's BioCirca. I have all of my account detail here. So I've got all my opportunities, my orders, my invoices, all of my notes and attachments. Everything is here right at my fingertips. What is also here are all the opportunities that I'm working on with BioCirca. Now, VJ works at BioCirca, and he and I have been working on some new hardware. And I've been talking to him about a couple of pieces of hardware. And that hardware, we've kind of haggled on it a little bit because of pricing, but we've finally come to terms on what the price is going to be for the alarm system and for the plumb device. So VJ has called me this morning and said he's ready to place an order. So let's walk through that process. We've got the opportunity here in Salesforce with the two items. Let's go ahead and create the sales order. Now, when I click on that button in Salesforce, it opens up a secure connection with Intacct. It's going to drop all of that information from the opportunity into a sales order form. So you're in Intacct now. This is an Intacct form. It's the sales order form. Everything is here. It all looks good to me. All I need to do is put in the currency. And if we didn't mention it, we are MultiCurrency. So I put in my transaction currency, and I go ahead and post this sales order on the Intacct side. When I execute this post, it's going to create a sales order, $13.59. Give me that green check mark, which is a good thing. And once it's created in on the Intacct side, it's also, because of the integration, it will push that order to the Salesforce side as well. So now, if I come in here and look, here is my order, $13.59, in Salesforce. So at this point, if VJ calls me back and says, hey, Linda, you know, what's the total of my invoice, or pardon me, of my order, I can tell him it's $21,500, it's order number $13.59, and we can talk about this order. He might also call me and say, I really would like to change the order. No problem. I'm going to come right back into it. I'm going to open up that order, and I'm going to say, what would you like to change, VJ? And he's going to say, well, I'd like to increase the number of alarm systems to 3. And I'm going to say, that's perfect. I will always take an increase in an order. And because I have these alarm systems as stocked inventory items, I get this little view of what my inventory looks like. So this little dialog box pops up, lets me know exactly what's going on with my quantities. All looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and post it. And posting it is going to update it on the Intacct side with those new quantities. So now I've made that edit to that sales order, again, getting that successfully updated notification. Now, on the Salesforce side, I get the same update. So bidirectional integration, no rekeying of information, and all of the information is being updated to the BioCirca account. So now when VJ or anyone else from BioCirca calls, I have everything right here at my fingertips on the Salesforce side. So we've entered that order. Let's go back to the Intacct side and let's take it through the rest of the process. So now that we have that order in Intacct, let's take it to the next step, which is to create those shipping documents or the picking and the packing slips. So this should look very familiar to you. The same type of process that you saw on the purchasing side. Again, all I have to do is click on the next step in the process, no rekeying of data. I'm going to put in here how I'm shipping it. That all looks good to me. I'm going to post it. Once I post the shipping documents, which says exactly what I've shipped, it's going to move to the next step, which is creating the sales invoice. And at this point, I'll create the sales invoice. Everything looks good to me. I want to check to make sure that I got the tax on there, and I did. So the tax was automatically calculated in for me. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and post it. Now, at this point, I have completed everything but the payment. So let's go look at this sales invoice. And again, it should look very familiar to you because I have that history tab. So now I have that same online audit on the sales side that I had on the purchasing side. So sales order, shipper, and sales invoice, all an online audit here. Next step in this process is to come in and key a cash receipt. So let's go ahead and receive a payment here. We'll do this kind of quickly so that we can get through this and get to our next area that we want to talk about. But we'll receive in a check of $1,000, and we'll put in a check number. And then we can apply this $1,000 to any of the open invoices, or we can start with the oldest invoice and pay until we run out of money. We get several choices in how we want to apply these monies. Now, once this has been applied, it's going to come up and give me the successfully saved message. So now I know that $1,000 has been posted into my financial journals. So I've recorded that transaction, and all of my accounting transactions have been completed. So what we've done here is we've gone through order entry. However, we started on the Salesforce side, and we converted an opportunity to a sales order. We went through fulfillment. We created a sales invoice, and then we moved to accounts receivable. And from receivables, we entered our cash receipt. And then at that point, we probably would want to print maybe our customer aging or perhaps our AR ledger. So those are the two business processes that I wanted to cover to let you know that we have predefined workflow, we have integrations to other best-in-class applications, and we have helped thousands of companies streamline and automate their processes. Now, let's come back to the wow part of it. Let's come back to the dashboard. This is the fun part. So as the controller, it's very important for me to be able to have everything at my fingertips, the things that are important to me. I want to see profit and loss statement. I want to see balance sheet. I may want to see how my customers are performing. So, excuse me. So to do this, I created my own controller dashboard. And on this dashboard are some reports. And the one that I utilize quite often is the profit and loss report. So let's take a look at what information is on that report and how I can get to the source transactions from the dashboard. So here's my P&L report. Important to me is where is the revenue coming from. Now I'm showing the current month and 2 previous months. You get to control all this when you lay out these reports. We're going to supply you with about 30 financial reports, and then we're going to teach you how to build reports on your own. You can also take our sample reports and you can copy from those reports. And that makes it very quick for you to create your own version. Now, if I look at the detail of this $84,000, I can see that it's different transactions that make up this total amount. And I'm going to look at this last transaction, which happens to be the invoice we just created. And I can drill back to that original document. Here is that sales invoice. And here is that all-important history tab. Now this is the same information that we looked at just a moment ago. But now I have all the information coming right from the P&L report. So if you had any questions about this being real-time, up-to-date information, it absolutely is. The minute that I posted those transactions, they were here in my P&L report. And this is the view of the payment that I received. So now I know which bank it was deposited into and all the particulars about that cash receipt. Now, all of our reports have this drill down capability. It's not just the P&L report. All of our reports are housed in our report center. Again, there are 3 reporting engines in Intacct. The first one is that financial report writer, which is the one that helped me create that P&L report. The second one is an on-demand report writer that Intacct has used to create for you 120 reports. And those reports are across the subsystem. So as I'm keying on some of these, you can see the different reports that are already in the system. The third area is the custom reports. And this is a report writer that Intacct has created for you. It's included with the Intacct solution, and it allows you to create as many custom reports as you choose to across the subsystem. And I would tell you that this is a very intuitive report writer. It's a wizard. It's designed for the business user. It's very friendly. As you see me stepping through it, you're going to pick a data library. You're going to choose the fields or columns you want on the report. You're going to follow the wizard through about 15 steps. You're going to save the report definition, and it too will be housed in the report area in this central repository. Now, because there are so many reports, we suggest that you create a favorites menu. And the favorites menu has all the reports that you want to get to quickly. And those reports listed here include, for me, that profit and loss report. Many ways to execute reports. You can view them, you can print them, you can export them to Excel, you can schedule them to run unattended in the background. The one thing that I would like to mention before we finish up today is that all of these reports are very easy for you to create. We are very user customer-centric here. We want this to be very easy for you to build your own report. So we've included lots of help, lots of guided help along the way. We have a couple of things that differentiate us in our report building. One is the use of something we call account groups, which allows you to group accounts together and then just point to the group instead of having to enter all of the accounts that you want to be included on the report. It's a very streamlined way for you to create reports very quickly. The second area that I want to mention that is a big differentiator for us is the use of what we call dimensions. And dimensions are a way for you to tag transactions to one or more of 8 dimensions. A dimension could be a customer, an item, a vendor, an employee, a department, a location, or a project. And by tagging your transactions, you then enable the ability to filter on those dimensions at reporting time. So as an example, you know, most companies want to see reports by department, by location, or by project. Those are dimensions in Intacct, and it allows us to filter and get those granular reports very easily. And then, of course, you know, looking at the next steps, when you create your reports, you might want to put them in your favorites. You might want to add them to the dashboard. Very easy. Just click on a button and it'll save it right to your dashboard. And then schedule it, as I said, to run periodically based on a schedule that you create. And you can also include this report in a report packet. Those packets might be something that you send out at the end of the month via the schedule. This is a tremendous time saver for companies. If you're trying to reduce the amount of time that it takes you to pull together your reporting, looking at the scheduler and the report groups is a great way to minimize the time invested. So without going much further in reporting, I just want to do a quick wrap and let you know that we did cover 3 areas today. We covered procure-to-pay, showing you the automation of that from requisition all the way through AP check cutting, showing you the workflow approval, eliminating those bottlenecks in your purchasing area. Then we moved to our quote to cash or order to cash. And we started out in Salesforce, and we showed you the integration between Salesforce and Intacct. We started with an opportunity, created a sales order, walked it through the process all the way through to cash receipt. And then we finished up by looking a little bit at the dashboards and some of the reports and the functionality, the drill down capability, looked at the report center, central repository for all of the reports in Intacct. And by the way, if I didn't mention, 150 reports when you initially implement are there ready to go when you start using Intacct. So, Carlo, I'm going to turn it back to you, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Linda. I appreciate it. So I just want to let the audience know that this is we're going to open it up for Q&A. So the first one was, does Intacct also connect with the business's financial institution to initiate online payments and/or ACH?
Yes, we do. And for those of you who are interested in ETF or ACH, I'll get underneath the covers a little bit here. When you set up your vendors, and I always think that a picture is worth 1,000 words, so we'll jump in here and show this. My Staples vendor that I was working with earlier, when you set up your vendor, you're going to have a choice of how you want to pay them. Do you want to pay them via a check, or it could even be a charge card, or if you wanted to do ACH. If you're doing ACH, there's a couple of configuration steps that you're going to need to set up. No big deal. Here's one piece of it. So at the vendor level, you're going to have a piece. And then you're also going to have some setup over here in our application called Cash Management. And Cash Management is where you're going to be able to set up all that information about ACH. And it's also the same place where you would have all of your bank reconciliations. So if you're wondering what goes on here, that's what's in Cash Management. So a little bit of setup, but it's very easy to turn that piece of functionality on.
Fantastic. Thanks, Linda. And a few more are piling in now, so I want to try to get to as many as we can. While you're on the ACH, can you also receive credit card and bank draft payments through Intacct?
Yes, you can. So one of the common ones that we get asked about is American Express. So can we come in and record those charge card transactions? You'd set up your charge cards, be able to come in and do the reconciliation for those different charge cards, and be able to import those transactions from the credit card company is something that we do.
Fantastic. And in regards to dealing with multi-currency, intercompany, and consolidation, can you just quickly show how that's managed?
I can. So everything that I showed you to begin with, audience, was in a single entity. Intacct certainly has the ability to grow and scale with your business. So I've opened up a multi-entity, multi-currency environment. So you'll notice that it's a little bit different. I've got 3 columns on my dashboard. It looks a little bit different. This is an environment that has 4 entities in it. So an entity to us is a separate company with a separate tax ID. Now for me, what I want to do is I want to see all 4 of those entities from a reporting standpoint. And you have the ability to see each one. So here they are from the income statement perspective. I also can group these together. So let's just say that I wanted to see Entity 1 and Entity 3 together. I could create a group, and I could group these together, and I could consolidate or report in that manner. If you are utilizing multi-currency, probably the best way to show you there is to come into an AP bill screen. So Intacct has a relationship with OANDA, OANDA.com, if you want to check it out on the web. Many people already use this service. So what happens is you have a base currency and you have a transaction currency. So the minute I put in Cisco here, you're going to see that I already have a transaction currency of US dollars. I'm going to choose a base currency here of euros. And what you're going to see is a calculated exchange rate. We call it the Intacct daily rate. This is coming from OANDA. So we're going to manage that calculation. You don't have to do that. You don't have to keep up with it. Then when you enter a transaction, you're going to point to an entity, and you're going to enter your transaction amount. And then once you enter that transaction amount, it's going to calculate and convert it to the base amount. So we're going to keep track of all of those conversions for you. Now, more importantly is, do you have the report that comes up with the difference in the rates? And we do. It's the AP Open Item Revaluation Report. And this report is one that you can run, and it will give you the gain or loss based on the rate at the time the transactions were entered. So here's the report, and here's the gain and loss. And we'll post those if you choose to have us do so in your configuration and setup. Now, Carlo, I don't know if there was an extra piece to that. Was there a inter-entity question part of that too?
No, but we did have one back to the ACH. I mean, for the charge card transactions, how does Intacct ensure the PCI compliance?
Intacct itself has the compliance with PCI. That is one of the certifications and compliant audits that we go through. There are several that we have, and I just happen to have them in front of me. I was just talking about them to someone else the other day. And PCI DSS is one. Sword and Shield is another company that we have certain securities and audits with, and TrustWave is another one. If you're interested in more about our audits and our compliance and what we go through to make sure that all of the data security is in place, then reach back to us, and I can point you to some of that information right on our Intacct website.
Fantastic. Thanks, Linda. And just keeping notice of the time, maybe we can get to one or two more. In regards to user access, is the user able, or kind of the admin able to kind of modify certain users to see within certain modules?
Yes.
I.e. purchasing, sales, financial?
Yes. So let me take you to Carla. She's our controller, and she's a business user. And a business user means that it doesn't necessarily mean that she has access to everything, although Carla does. But a business user is the highest level of user that Intacct has, as opposed to Jay, and he was our employee user. So as Carla here, Carla's assigned to a role. And when I assigned her to this controller role, I gave her access to certain applications. We call them subscriptions. So she has access to all of these applications. Within each application, there are also permissions. And what you'll notice if you're coming from another system, maybe something like a QuickBooks, this is much more granular than what you have currently in a QuickBooks permissioning system. This has all the tasks and activities. It allows you to turn on or turn off their access rights. Maybe they can view, but they can't add, edit, or delete. Maybe they can do lots of things in payables, but the one thing they can't do is they can't change the expense distribution after an invoice has been paid. That's called reclassify in Intacct, and only certain people can do that within your organization. The same thing is true around reports. You might not give them access to every single report that's in that particular application. Now, this is all controlled by you as the business user. So every business user won't be setting people's security. You'll have a couple of people probably in your organization that will do that. The point being, you don't need to come back to Intacct for us to control your security. You control that yourself. And then one other quick piece here, I know we're short on time, is preferences. So when you set up each one of your users, each user can have their own preferences, and their own preferences allows them to put in how they want certain things to happen for them. What do they want their toolbar to look like? What order do they want it to be in? Where do they want to land when they launch Intacct? Carla wants to come to her dashboard. In fact, she wants to come to her controller dashboard. So there's a lot of personalization and configuration that you can do in Intacct, including at the user level.
Thank you, Linda, and thanks for all of that insight. We do have a few more questions. Unfortunately, we have a couple of items just to cover before we do end today's session, but we will go ahead and make sure that we work with both Linda and Vijay to get all those questions answered right after the webinar. We can also share some of these other resources that Intacct has. This will be available with the link you received along with the recording, but the presentation is currently available on proformative.com. I just want to take this time again to remind everyone who is attending the webinar, there will be a short survey at the end when I do go ahead and end the webinar here in just a couple minutes. We'd love for your continuous discussion to float over to proformative.com and utilize that platform to ask other users as well as folks from Intacct questions regarding their product. And just a brief reminder of our Proforma Tech conference that's coming up in less than a week, next Wednesday in San Francisco. It's a great opportunity to come out and actually see Intacct along with a lot of other technology providers in the finance space, listening to world-class speakers around best practices. Please check it out at proformatech.com for registration. And I'd like to take this time to thank both Vijay and Linda again for their time. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Carlo. It was great to be here.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Fantastic. And I also want to thank again today's sponsor, Intacct. We appreciate the support of our sponsor and both speakers and bringing this opportunity to our audience. We really appreciate it. And so with that, I thank the audience for your time. We hope to see you again at another Proformative event or online at proformative.com. Again, if you can just stick around for another 60 seconds to take the short survey, we greatly appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day, folks.